everybody on the Pro Farm. So let's talk Photoshop. I know a lot of people have moved away from Photoshop, do a lot of things in Lightroom. And that's what I want to talk about. Do you realize that Lightroom, there's a little video thing that I saw that Lightroom did that I can't seem to get Bridge to do. That's one thing. And of course, Lightroom is pretty. But Lightroom was primarily designed when they started the whole thing to be a image categorizing software. It was a way for people to, for example, search all 17-year-old girls with a red dress from South Terrebonne High School. And you could, all those images would categorize out and come up. That's what it was invented for. And of course, what Microsoft did is they allowed Adobe Camera Raw, which is Microsoft's, I keep saying Microsoft, Adobe's RAW converter, to work within Lightroom. Well, if you take a RAW file and you start manipulating it from within Lightroom, you are using, not Lightroom, you are using Adobe Camera Raw. Now, what I would love for you to do, if you happen to have both Photoshop and Lightroom, is I would like for you to open up Bridge inside Photoshop, or just open up Photoshop, go to a RAW file, go File, Open, and tell me if what you see isn't exactly the same thing you see whenever you open up Lightroom. If it's different, well, then that's part of the Lightroom pretty. And it's not a bad thing. I mean, Lightroom is pretty, and for $100 they give you a pretty piece of software that allows you to click some presets. But all of these things can be done from within Adobe Camera Raw. Thus, it can be accessed from Bridge, it can be accessed from Photoshop, and so on and so forth. Now, for me personally, I think that's fabulous. Whether you're using Lightroom or Bridge or Photoshop or whatever the case may be, to access these RAW files and to manipulate the RAW files to finally get them into a usable, workable format. TIFF files, PSDs, PDFs, JPEGs, whatever the case may be. That's great. But, I mean, to me, why pay the extra $100 when, to me, Photoshop is so important? Because I don't think you can run Liquify, for example, inside of Lightroom. And I do a lot of that, slimming people's faces in this area, opening eyeballs a little bit. I don't think you can, I know Lightroom, Adobe Camera Raw, and these type of things, Bridge, will allow you to do like a little spot heal, but it's a very coarse type healing. So, you know, if a person has a bunch of zits, the fastest way that I have found is to fix that inside of Photoshop, as opposed to doing this spot thing in Adobe Camera Raw. So to me, it's almost impossible to be a professional photographer without Photoshop. So that you gotta have Photoshop, unless of course you're doing, you know, volume type stuff, in which case you absolutely do not need Photoshop. In which case, yes, Lightroom would be fine. But if you're doing, you know, the finer type in photography, and if it's, you know, a little more one-on-one type stuff, like the kind of stuff that I do, I guess is what I'm saying. To me, you just gotta have Photoshop. You gotta make every image as perfect as possible. And I think of Bridge, Adobe Camera Raw, Lightroom, all this kind of stuff. I think of that as the coarse adjustment, but then I think of Photoshop, that's the fine tuning. That's the very, you know, it's the little fine adjustment here, a little shadow removal, or a little bit of a zit, you know, enhancement, you know, weird eyelash, whatever the case may be, all of these fine-tune adjustments. So that's, for me, just a quick overview of my Photoshop world and how I use it and what I use it for, the different pieces of software. Hope that helps you understand my world a little bit better. Talk to y'all tomorrow. Bye.